The stars above Earth were calm when the great shadow arrived. At first it was seen only as strange points of light moving against the sky, larger than any planet, brighter than any star. Then the people of Earth saw the true shape of the ships. They were vast, like dark floating cities with spires and towers rising from their backs. Their hulls glowed with golden lines, and their movement was silent, steady, and terrifying. The Dominion had come. For thousands of years, the Dominion had ruled the galaxy with a cold hand. World after world had bent its knee, offering ships, metals, soldiers, and food. Those who obeyed survived. Those who resisted were erased, their cities turned to ruins, their people scattered. The Dominion never asked for permission. It demanded. Now it was Earth's turn. In orbit, the Dominion flagship hovered above the planet like a black crown. At its command bridge stood Commander Vayer. He was tall, his skin pale silver, his eyes narrow and cold. To him, Earth was just another stubborn young world, one more world to be added to the Dominion's endless list of servants. Transmit the message, Vayer ordered. The order echoed across satellites, space stations, and communication relays. In an instant, every screen on Earth, from the smallest radio signal to the largest broadcast tower, carried the same voice. It was deep, sharp, and filled with certainty. People of Earth, the voice began. You stand before the Dominion. Your world is small. Your people are untested. Yet your survival is granted a chance. Pay tribute. Deliver 100 warships, 10 million soldiers, and all rare metals of your world. Swear loyalty to the Dominion and live. Refuse, and Earth will burn. The words spread like fire. Families watching in their homes froze in silence. Soldiers on bases dropped their tools and stared. Farmers in fields stopped their work. Pilots in the air heard the same voice in their headsets. The world listened together. For the first time in history, every human shared the same message at the same time. At the United Earth Assembly, leaders gathered in shock. The Great Hall was filled with voices. Some shouted in fear, insisting they must comply, for the Dominion's fleet was too powerful. Others argued they could never bow, that humanity's spirit would be broken forever if they surrendered. The arguments grew hotter, the voices louder. General Marcus, an older man with scars from past wars, rose from his seat. He had fought in battles on Earth long before the stars had ever seemed close. His voice cut through the chaos. Listen to me, Marcus said firmly. The Dominion does not see us as equals. To them, we are nothing but tools. If we give them our soldiers, our ships, our resources, they will take until Earth is hollow. Do you wish to live on your knees, or do you wish to stand? The hall fell silent for a moment. Then another voice spoke. It was Lena, a scientist who had worked on space projects for years. She had a calm voice, but her words carried strength. We are not the first world they have demanded from, she said. But we can be the first to answer differently. We are human. We survived storms, wars, and hardships. We are not perfect, but we do not break easily. If we bend now, we will never rise again. The assembly grew still. Every eye looked around the room, searching for the decision that would shape Earth's future. Meanwhile, above the planet, Commander Vayer waited. He expected fear. He expected begging. That was always the way. The weak worlds begged, and the Dominion took what it wanted. But when the United Earth Assembly spoke at last, there was no begging. No trembling. The message they sent back to the stars was only one word. It carried in every language, across every signal, loud and sharp, run. The world held its breath. Commander Vayer blinked, surprised for the first time in decades. His officers looked at one another, uncertain if they had heard correctly. Run. This small world dared to command the Dominion? But Earth was no longer divided. From cities to villages, From mountains to oceans, people repeated the word with pride. Children whispered it. Soldiers shouted it. Pilots carved it into their ships. The word was no longer just a reply, it was a promise. Earth had given its answer. The Dominion had demanded tribute. Instead, humanity gave defiance. And now the galaxy would see what that defiance meant. The Dominion had expected silence after their demand. Or perhaps cries of surrender, offers of gold and soldiers, the usual answers that came from frightened worlds. But instead, they received one word from Earth. One word that no planet had ever dared to speak. Run. The word spread faster than fire. Across Earth, it appeared on banners, on news screens, even scratched into the walls of old cities. People who had never agreed on anything before now shared one thought. The Dominion had tried to crush them with fear, but the answer had turned fear into unity. In the streets of New London, a crowd gathered around a massive screen. An old man stood with his granddaughter at his side. When the word "run" appeared again in bold letters, the people around him began to cheer. The girl looked up at him with wide eyes. "Grandfather, are we not afraid?" she asked. He put a hand on her shoulder and shook his head. "We are afraid," he said. "But fear is not the end. It is the beginning. Today, child, we choose to fight." Similar scenes unfolded across the planet. In faraway villages, farmers painted the word on their barns. In busy cities, students sang it in the streets. In military bases, commanders ordered the word stenciled onto the sides of ships. It was no longer only a warning, it was a rallying cry. At the United Earth Assembly, the leaders sat in tense silence after sending their message. They knew what was coming. The Dominion would not laugh and turn away. It would return with fire. Yet none of them spoke of surrender anymore. The decision had been made, and the weight of it sat on every shoulder. General Marcus was the first to break the silence. "They will not forgive this," he said. "Their pride is too great. But we must be ready before their next step. Every hour counts." Lena, the scientist, nodded. "We must prepare the skies, the seas, even the ground. They will come from above, but we can make Earth into a fortress. And we must do more than defend. We must learn, adapt, strike back." The assembly agreed. Orders went out that very night. Factories that once built cars and planes began to produce weapons, armor, and drones. Engineers who once designed satellites now worked on turning them into traps. Shipyards that had only dreamed of building interstellar craft suddenly received unlimited funding. The people responded faster than anyone imagined. Young men and women filled training camps. Scientists stayed awake through endless nights, drawing new designs. Families gave their tools, their machines, their skills. For the first time in history, Earth moved as one. Meanwhile, in the cold silence of space, Commander Vayer paced aboard his flagship. The word still echoed in his mind. Run. He had crushed rebellions, burned cities, silenced countless worlds. Never once had anyone spoken to the Dominion like that. "What arrogance," one of his officers said. "They are a small, weak planet. Shall we strike now?" Vayer's silver eyes narrowed. "No," he answered. "Not yet. Let them think their word means something. Let them shout. When we return, we will break them in such a way that no other world will ever dare speak again." But not all in the Dominion felt the same. In hidden corners of the fleet, whispers began to spread. A few officers who had seen the fire of human eyes during the broadcast wondered if this Earth was different. The Dominion was powerful, yes, but it had grown used to obedience. What if this planet truly meant what it said? On Earth, preparation continued at a furious pace. Soldiers trained not only with weapons but also with new tactics. They studied how the Dominion fought, how their ships moved, how their technology worked. Small teams of hackers and engineers tried to break into captured signals, searching for weaknesses. Lena stood in her laboratory, staring at a half-finished design of a new propulsion engine. "We cannot fight them ship for ship," she whispered. "But if we can outthink them, outmove them, then maybe, just maybe, we have a chance." General Marcus visited training camps daily. He watched young recruits, some barely more than children, learning to stand together. He knew many would not return from the battles ahead, but he also knew their courage would shape the future. The word "run" became more than a warning to the Dominion. It became a promise to humanity itself. A promise that they would not fall quietly, that their struggle would shake the stars. One night, Lena stood on the balcony of the assembly hall, looking up at the dark sky. The stars seemed endless, but among them she knew the Dominion ships still waited. Marcus joined her, his face hard but his eyes thoughtful. "They are watching us," Lena said. "Waiting for us to tremble." Marcus shook his head. "Then let them watch. We will not tremble. We will rise. And when they return, they will learn what Earth truly means." Above them, far beyond the reach of the human eye, Commander Vare clenched his fists. He had never been defied like this. He would not let the insult stand. Earth had spoken one word. Soon, the Dominion would answer. The word had been spoken, and now the world moved. Run was not only a warning to the Dominion, it was a command to Earth itself. Run to prepare. Run to build. Run to meet the storm that was coming. In every corner of the planet, people worked as if time itself were chasing them. Old shipyards along Earth's oceans roared back to life. Where once they had built fishing vessels and transport barges, now they forged steel frames for warships. Cranes swung day and night. Sparks flew from welding torches. Engineers who once worked on peaceful projects stood shoulder to shoulder with soldiers, drawing new designs on glowing screens. Factories that once built cars and farming machines were transformed almost overnight. Assembly lines shifted to produce drones, railguns, and armored vehicles. Workers did not complain. They knew why they labored, and they knew who they labored for: the survival of Earth. General Marcus walked through one such factory in New London. He saw men and women, young and old, sweating and covered in grease, yet still smiling as they worked. One woman handed him a tool, her face tired but proud. "My son joined the training camps yesterday," she said. "I cannot fight with him, but I can build the machines that will keep him alive." Marcus placed his hand on her shoulder. "You are fighting," he told her. "Every bolt, every plate of steel, every weapon you make is a blow struck against the Dominion." Meanwhile, across the world, training camps filled with new recruits. Soldiers, students, farmers, and even former criminals lined up in ranks. They carried no fear on their faces, only determination. The training was harsh. Recruits marched until their legs shook. They lifted heavy packs, built barricades, and practiced combat drills. They learned not only to fire weapons but also to move as one, to trust the person beside them. General Marcus visited often, watching their progress. He saw young men who could barely hold a rifle learn to hit targets at impossible distances. He saw women who had never set foot in a camp break records in endurance runs. He saw unity forming where once there had been division. Above all, he saw the word "run" painted across banners, helmets, and even on the sides of training rifles. It was no longer a single word spoken in defiance. It had become a symbol of strength. While Marcus prepared soldiers, Lena worked with scientists and engineers in hidden laboratories. She studied the Dominion's technology, pulling apart every scrap of data they had managed to capture from intercepted signals. "They rely on power," she told her team, pointing at a hologram of a Dominion cruiser. "Their ships are massive, their weapons strong, but they are slow to change. We are smaller, quicker, more creative. If we learn their patterns, we can turn their strength into weakness." Her greatest focus was on propulsion. The Dominion ships moved like great floating fortresses, steady and overwhelming. But Lena believed that Earth's survival would depend not on strength, but on speed. She and her team worked day and night, designing an engine that could twist through battlefields, strike fast, and vanish before the enemy could respond. Weeks passed, and Earth's skies grew busy. Test flights of new ships roared above the oceans. Drones hovered in swarms, their sensors sharp. Satellites were turned into traps, some carrying hidden weapons, others built to blind Dominion scanners. The world had not been this united in living memory. Nations that had once fought each other now shared blueprints and soldiers. Rivals worked side by side. Borders seemed to vanish, replaced by one name: humanity. And still, the Dominion waited. Commander Vare received reports of Earth's frantic activity. His officers laughed when they read them. "Let them prepare," one said. "They are ants building walls against a storm." But Vare did not laugh. His sharp eyes studied every report, every intercepted transmission. "They are ants, yes," he said. "But even ants can bite if one is careless. Let them build. It will make their fall all the greater." In secret, however, some of Vare's younger officers felt unease. They had never seen a world respond with such speed, with such fire. Most planets collapsed into panic when faced with the Dominion's demand. Earth was different. Earth was preparing for war. On Earth, the people knew what was coming. The skies looked peaceful, but they carried the weight of approaching battle. Children were taught to hide in shelters. Families gathered supplies. Soldiers sharpened their blades and loaded their rifles. And yet, there was no despair. There was only resolve. For the first time, humanity stood together, not as divided nations, but as one voice. One night, as Marcus stood on a training field watching recruits march beneath the stars, Lena joined him. Her hands were stained with ink and oil from her endless work, but her eyes shone with determination. "They will come soon," she said. Marcus nodded. "And we will be ready." "Do you ever fear?" she asked. "Always," he answered. "But fear is not weakness. Fear reminds us what we are fighting for." Above them, the night sky glittered with countless stars. Somewhere beyond that calm darkness, the Dominion's fleets gathered their strength. And somewhere on Earth, engines roared, weapons gleamed, and soldiers prepared. Humanity was running not away, but toward the battle that would decide their future. The word had been spoken. The work had begun. The storm was coming. The weeks of preparation ended when the sky lit with fire. It began on the edge of the solar system. Long-range sensors caught the first signs: shapes moving like black shadows between the planets. The Dominion had come at last. Their fleet was larger than anything Earth had ever imagined. Cruisers with wings like blades, carriers as large as cities, and swarms of fighters that filled the darkness. They moved with the slow, heavy confidence of conquerors. The warning reached Earth in minutes. Alarms sounded across bases and colonies. Soldiers strapped into their suits, pilots climbed into their cockpits, and families rushed into shelters. The world had been waiting, and now the moment had arrived. General Marcus stood in the command center on Earth, watching the fleet markers appear on the holographic map. His voice was steady, though every line of his face carried the weight of the battle to come. "They are heading toward Mars," an officer reported. Marcus nodded. "Then Mars will be our wall. Signal the fleet. We meet them there." Humanity's ships rose from orbits around Earth and the Moon. They were smaller than the Dominion's, rougher in design, and far fewer in number. Some had been built in hidden shipyards, others converted from old mining haulers or cargo freighters. Painted across their hulls, however, was the same word: run. At the head of the fleet was Captain Hale, commanding one of Earth's largest carriers. His ship, the Defiance, was newly built but untested. He knew the odds, but when he spoke to his crew, his voice was calm. "Today," Hale said, "the Dominion expects fear. Instead, we will give them a lesson. They believe they face prey. Show them they face hunters." The two forces met above Mars. The red planet spun quietly below as the blackness of space became alive with fire. The Dominion opened the battle with overwhelming force. Their cruisers unleashed beams of energy that cut through the dark like burning swords. Their fighters swarmed forward in perfect formation, fast and sharp. One human ship was destroyed in the first strike, bursting into flames before its crew could even fire back. But Earth did not fight the way the Dominion expected. Instead of charging in heavy lines, human ships scattered. They moved in broken patterns, weaving between asteroids and fragments of old satellites. Small corvettes darted in close, striking Dominion cruisers at their weak points before fleeing into the dark. Fighters swooped in with quick missile runs, then vanished into Mars's shadow. On the Defiance, Hale gave the order. "Deploy the hidden drones." Hundreds of drones shot out from the carrier, invisible until their engines flared. They darted like insects, small and fast, confusing Dominion targeting systems. Some carried explosives, others simply rammed into enemy fighters. For the first time, the Dominion's perfect formations wavered. Commander Vayer watched from his flagship. At first he dismissed the strange movements as chaos, but as the battle stretched on, his frown deepened. The humans were not fighting without order, they were fighting with a kind of order he had never seen. "They strike like raiders," one of his officers muttered. "Not soldiers. But, they learn quickly." Indeed, every minute, the humans grew sharper. They lost ships, yes, but each loss seemed to teach them something. Their counterattacks grew bolder. A small squadron of human corvettes even managed to cripple a Dominion cruiser by targeting its engine vents, a weakness no other world had ever discovered so fast. On Earth, the people watched the battle unfold through live transmissions. They cheered when Dominion ships exploded, cried when human ships were lost, but through it all, their resolve grew. For the first time, the galaxy's greatest empire had met resistance. Above Mars, the fight reached its height. Dominion ships closed in around the Defiance. Alarms blared, fires raged through the carrier's lower decks, but Captain Hale stood firm. "Bring us closer," he ordered. His crew stared in shock. "Closer, sir." "Their guns closer," Hale repeated. "We strike at their heart." The Defiance plunged forward, weaving through enemy fire. At the perfect moment, its railguns unleashed a storm of metal slugs, tearing through a Dominion cruiser's bridge. The massive ship shuddered and broke apart, scattering debris across the void. The sight stunned the Dominion fleet. They had expected to crush Earth in hours. Instead, one of their mighty cruisers had fallen to a planet that was supposed to be weak. Commander Vayer's hands tightened on the rail of his command deck. "Enough games," he growled. "Send in the heavy ships. End this." But before his order could be carried out, reports arrived of failing formations, broken wings, and strange traps hidden among Mars's orbiting rocks. Humanity had laid more than weapons, they had laid clever ambushes. Explosives hidden on asteroids detonated, tearing through Dominion fighters. Electromagnetic mines disabled enemy sensors. By the time Vayer pulled his fleet back to regroup, the battle was already slipping away. The humans had not destroyed the Dominion, but they had done what no other world had ever achieved. They had forced the Dominion to retreat, even if only a step. On the Defiance, Captain Hale stood with smoke rising behind him. His crew cheered, battered but alive. Across the fleet, tired voices shouted the same word again and again. "Run! Run! Run!" On Earth, General Marcus received the final report. Losses had been heavy, but the impossible had been done. Humanity had stood against the Dominion and survived. Lena, standing beside him, whispered, "We showed them. We showed the galaxy." Marcus nodded. His eyes hardened as he looked at the stars. This was only the first clash. They will return, and they will come with fury. But now they know. Humanity does not bow. And somewhere far above, in the silence of his flagship, Commander Vare swore that next time, there would be no retreat. The news of the battle spread faster than light. Across hidden channels, merchant routes, and secret networks, whispers carried the impossible truth: Earth had fought the Dominion and had not been destroyed. On distant worlds, slaves paused in their work when they heard the rumor. Farmers on conquered planets lifted their heads toward the stars. Traders in forgotten stations exchanged the story in hushed voices. The word was the same everywhere: humanity had resisted. For generations, the Dominion had seemed unshakable. Its fleets had crushed rebellion after rebellion. Worlds that dared to speak against it were burned to ash. But now, at Mars, the unthinkable had happened. The Dominion's fleet had been forced to retreat. Even if only for a moment, the Empire had stumbled. And the galaxy was watching. On Earth, the victory brought both hope and urgency. People filled the streets, cheering the names of the soldiers who had fought above Mars. Banners waved with the word painted bold across them. Children sang songs of courage. Families lit fires in honor of the fallen. For the first time in memory, there was not despair in the air, but pride. Yet General Marcus knew the truth. The battle was a spark, not the end. The Dominion would not forget the insult. They would not forgive the wound to their pride. Their next strike would be greater, heavier, merciless. Standing before the assembly, Marcus raised his hand. "Celebrate today," he said. "But understand this: tomorrow, we must prepare again. The Dominion will return with all its fury. And when they do, we must be stronger than we were at Mars." Lena stood beside him, her face pale with exhaustion. She had barely slept since the first battle, working endlessly on new designs. Still, her voice was steady. "We are learning," she said. "Every clash teaches us something. Their ships are powerful, but they are predictable. We can build faster, strike sharper. If we keep adapting, we can survive the storms to come." Around the galaxy, others were listening. On the mining world of Doran, a secret meeting took place in the caves. The miners had long been under Dominion rule, forced to send ore to feed the Empire's fleets. But that night, they whispered to one another. "Did you hear? Earth told them to run." They said it on every channel. And then they fought. And won. "Not won," another voice corrected. "But they did not lose. That is enough." In those dark caves, for the first time in years, the people dared to imagine rebellion. On a trading station at the edge of Dominion space, merchants gathered around a screen showing broken images from the battle. One laughed nervously. "They are mad, those humans. Do they not know the Dominion's power?" Another leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "Mad or not, they did what no one else could. They stood. Perhaps madness is what the galaxy needs." Even within the Dominion itself, the whispers spread. Lower officers who had seen the battle at Mars spoke quietly in their quarters. Some admired humanity's courage, others feared it. None dared speak too loudly, but the thought grew: if Earth could resist, then maybe the Dominion was not eternal after all. Commander Vare, however, would allow no such doubt. On his flagship, he gathered his officers and spoke with iron in his voice. "Do not be fooled," he said. "The humans are not strong. They are reckless, untested, desperate. Their small victory is nothing. We will return, and when we do, their world will burn until nothing remains but dust." Yet in the back of his mind, the word still echoed. "Run." It clung to him like a shadow, refusing to fade. On Earth, preparations did not slow. New fleets were built in hidden docks. Scientists developed faster engines, stronger shields, Smarter weapons. Pilots trained in endless simulations, learning how to turn the Dominion's might against itself. General Marcus visited one such training center, watching young pilots dive and weave in their fighters. He saw them smile even after losing, eager to try again, eager to improve. He felt both pride and sorrow. So many of them would not return when the next battle came. Yet their courage gave him strength. Lena worked with her team to develop weapons the Dominion had never seen. She believed that Earth's true advantage was not size or numbers, but creativity. They expect us to fight like soldiers, she told Marcus. But we are not soldiers of the Dominion. We are humans. We think differently. That will be our shield. Meanwhile, Earth's message spread without effort. Across the galaxy, the word "run" became a secret sign of hope. On backwater colonies, it was scratched into walls. On prison ships, it was whispered between cells. On planets ruled by fear, it was painted in hidden corners. Humanity had not only answered the Dominion, it had lit a fire in the hearts of others. The galaxy was watching. Some with fear. Some with doubt. But many with new courage. Back in the assembly, Marcus looked at Lena. We did not only fight for ourselves at Mars, he said. We fought for every world that has ever dreamed of freedom. And now, the Dominion knows that dream cannot be killed so easily. Lena nodded. Yes. But dreams are fragile. We must protect them with everything we have. Above them, the stars shone cold and endless. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was preparing for its return. But for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was not silent. It was alive with whispers of resistance, whispers born from one small world that had dared to defy. And still, one word carried through the void, louder than fear, stronger than despair. Run. The sky above Earth had grown dark with incoming ships. The Dominion's largest fleet yet was approaching, stretching across the void like an endless shadow. Every world they had ever conquered had fallen without fight. Every fleet had shattered before them. Now, the galaxy waited to see if Earth would finally break. On Earth, the people were ready. For months, soldiers trained, engineers built ships, and scientists developed weapons that could outmaneuver even the fastest Dominion cruisers. The word "run" had become more than a warning, it was a battle cry, painted on ships, whispered among pilots, and shouted across training fields. General Marcus stood on the bridge of Earth's Central Command ship, the Vigilant. He watched the Dominion fleet's markers approach on the holographic display. His jaw was tight, his eyes steady. They have brought everything, an officer said. All the cruisers, all the fighters. Even their heavy artillery. Marcus nodded. Good. Then they will see what we have built. Today, Earth does not run. Today, we fight to show them what it means to underestimate humanity. Captain Hale, leading the fleet's vanguard, stared into the dark expanse of space. His fighters hovered at the ready. We know their patterns, he said. We've studied them. We will strike where they are weakest. Lena, overseeing weapon deployment, checked every system. Our engines are faster, she told the pilots. Our drones can disable their weapons. Their formation is large, but slow. We can outmaneuver them, and we will. Above the battle lines, Commander Vare's flagship loomed. His eyes, cold as silver steel, scanned the human fleet. He had underestimated them before. That mistake would not happen again. Destroy them, he ordered. Leave no ship, no city, no trace. The first clash erupted above Mars. Energy beams cut through the blackness, explosions lit up the void, and fighters weaved through debris like streaks of fire. The Dominion unleashed everything they had learned from centuries of conquest. Yet Earth responded differently this time. The humans did not fight blindly. Their ships moved in precise formations designed to confuse the enemy. Drones darted like lightning, disabling cruisers and scattering fighters. Mines hidden among asteroid belts detonated at the perfect moment. Every strike was calculated, every move deliberate. On the Vigilant, Marcus barked orders. Focus on their flagship. Hit the engines first. Protect the carriers. Captain Hale's squadron dove into the heart of the Dominion formation. Missiles flew, energy shields flared, and the massive cruisers groaned under repeated attacks. One of the Dominion's heaviest cruisers exploded, sending a fireball across space. Commander Vair's eyes narrowed. He had expected a short battle, but the humans were relentless. They adapted faster than any world he had ever faced. Each loss they suffered seemed to make them stronger, faster, smarter. They are not like other worlds, he muttered. They fight with chaos and order together. They learn from every strike. Lena directed the next wave. Activate the new propulsion systems. We can outflank them. Go around their left wing. The maneuver worked perfectly. Human ships slipped past the heavy cruisers, striking at weak points no Dominion fleet had ever faced. Explosions rocked the formation, and several enemy fighters were disabled before they could even return fire. For hours, the battle raged. Dominion ships pressed forward with overwhelming force, but humanity refused to break. Each strike, each maneuver, each loss taught them how to survive the next attack. They did not simply fight, they evolved in the middle of the battle. Then the turning point came. The Defiance and the Vigilant launched a coordinated attack at the Dominion flagship's core. Guided missiles, energy pulses, and drone swarms converged on the massive ship. The Dominion flagship shuddered, alarms screaming across its decks. Commander Vair clenched his fists as the hull cracked and fire spread through the ship's main bridge. The humans had struck at the heart of his command. It was a blow no other world had ever dealt him. The fleet around the flagship faltered. Confusion spread. Signals failed. Fighters collided in the chaos. Slowly, the Dominion fleet began to retreat, pulling back through the stars they had thought would be theirs. On the human side, victory was cautious but undeniable. Ships were damaged, and lives had been lost, but the fleet remained intact. Humanity had not only survived the Dominion's greatest assault, it had forced the Empire to retreat. General Marcus looked at the horizon of Mars through the bridge window. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "But we have shown them what it means to face humans who refuse to kneel." Lena stood beside him, exhausted but determined. "We have sent a message they will never forget," she said. "Earth is not a world to conquer. We will fight, and we will endure." Across the galaxy, the Dominion's retreat sent ripples of hope. Other worlds saw that the invincible empire could be challenged. Whispers of rebellion grew louder. For the first time in centuries, hope returned. And somewhere, deep in the void, the word echoed again. One simple word that had started it all. Run. This time, it was no longer a warning. It was a promise. The Dominion's retreat was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their massive fleet, once a shadow across the stars, pulled back in disarray. Messages were sent to their command, but the shock of defeat had left the officers hesitant, uncertain. They had never been challenged by a single world so fiercely. They had never faced a people who refused to bow. On Earth, the mood was a mixture of celebration and determination. Cities lit up with lights and fireworks. Soldiers cheered in streets while pilots returned from patrols covered in scorch marks and battle debris. Families embraced, grateful that their loved ones had survived the brutal fight above Mars. Yet General Marcus knew that the war was not over. Victory was a moment, but survival required constant vigilance. The Dominion would return. It always did. But for the first time, humanity had proven that it could stand, that it could strike back, and that it would not break. In the assembly hall, leaders gathered to discuss the future. "We have shown them that fear does not rule Earth," Marcus said, his voice firm. We have survived their might, and now we must ensure that survival continues. Our fleets must grow. Our defenses must strengthen. And our allies, those who see the Dominion as a threat, must join us. Lena, standing beside him, added, "The galaxy is watching. Other worlds are inspired by what we have done. Earth is no longer alone. The word we spoke, the word that started it all, has become a symbol. It is not a threat or a warning only to the Dominion. It is hope for every oppressed world." Across distant planets, whispers turned into conversation. Slaves on mining colonies spoke quietly of rebellion. Traders on distant stations shared the story with travelers. Children on faraway worlds painted the word on walls. Humanity's defiance had become a spark in the darkness. Back in orbit, the human fleets repaired and rebuilt. Pilots trained harder, engineers improved ships, and soldiers studied new strategies. No one celebrated the Dominion's retreat as an end. They celebrated survival, and they prepared for the challenges that would surely come. Captain Hale oversaw the training of a new squadron. His hands were steady as he guided young pilots through simulations, but his mind wandered to the battles ahead. The Dominion will return, he reminded them. They will bring greater fleets, stronger weapons, and they will expect us to break. But remember what we have learned. We fight not for victory alone, but for every world that dreams of freedom. Even Commander Vare's silver eyes watched from far beyond Earth. He had underestimated this planet once. Never again. The humans had something no other world possessed: ingenuity, courage, and unity. He could destroy cities, but he could not destroy the spirit of a people who refused to kneel. On Earth, the word "run" became part of culture. It was painted on walls, sung in songs, written in books. It reminded everyone of the battle, of the courage, and of the promise humanity had made to itself and the galaxy. The word was no longer a simple warning, it was a legacy. In classrooms, teachers spoke of the battle above Mars, of the fleets, and of the courage of ordinary humans who had become heroes. In homes, parents told stories of pilots and soldiers who had fought not for glory, but for survival and freedom. Across Earth, young and old understood that their world had changed the course of history. For General Marcus, the lesson was clear. Earth had survived because humanity refused to surrender, because people had acted together as one. The galaxy may never see another planet like us, he said. We are small compared to the Dominion, but our courage is large. That is our power. That is what will keep Earth safe. Lena looked at him and smiled faintly. And perhaps, she said, our courage will inspire others. If the Dominion ever returns, they will find more than one world ready to fight. That is the true legacy of our defiance. As the sun rose over Earth, casting golden light across cities, oceans, and mountains, humanity stood proud. Ships returned from the outer colonies, soldiers marched in parade, and engineers continued their work. There was exhaustion, yes, but there was also hope. Somewhere among the stars, the Dominion plotted its revenge. But across the galaxy, the whispers had begun. Hope, courage, defiance, these words traveled faster than any fleet. Other worlds had learned a simple truth: humanity did not bow. Humanity did not run from fear. Humanity stood. And the galaxy remembered the word that had started it all. One word, simple and strong. One word that had carried the spirit of a people across the void. Run. It was no longer a warning. It was a declaration. It was a promise. Earth had spoken. And the stars had listened.